Hey everyone, this is Riddle Hacker AJ Raven. I'm here with my recap and review of It's a Sin, which is a 5 episode miniseries about queer people and the AIDS epidemic. And I've only watched the first episode. I still need to watch the other 4 episodes. The entire 5 episodes miniseries is available on the Channel 4 streaming service. You can check it out. And in the US, this series is going to premiere on HBO Max on, I guess it's February 10th or something. You can Google it. And this show, it's by Russell T Davies, and the first episode, it was so well paced. I liked how all of the characters were introduced. I liked how even though these new queer young people have dreams and they have ambitions, but because it's set during 1981, there are whispers about some cancer that's killing queer people in the States, and now it's making its way to the UK. And you just know that this is going to be a very emotional journey. And even though I'm not a big fan of sad queer stories, I'm here for it if it's well written. And It's a Sin is incredibly well written from what I could judge from the first episode. So anyway, the episode opens on September 1981, and we have this family, and the character that you see in front of you, the young character, he's called Richie, and he's getting ready to move out of the house and go study law and become a barrister. And his mom is like, you know what, Richie, you'll be gone, so I'm thinking of cleaning out your room. So when you come back, everything is cleaned and everything is organized. And of course, because Richie is a young queer kid, he doesn't want his mom searching his room and cleaning his room because he has these male-centric magazines in there. So he ends up cleaning his room himself because he doesn't want his mom to find out that he's queer. And it's time for him to go, and Richie is played by singer Ollie Alexander, and I liked him in the role, even though I would have cast someone younger, but it is what it is. So his father's the one who ends up taking him to the mainland because that's where his university is. And his father ends up giving him a box of contraceptives. And he's like, Richie, I know that you're going to have a whole lot of fun with other girls in your university, but I don't want you getting anyone pregnant. But yes, son, have fun. And Richie just looks at the box and he's like, why would I ever need this? So after his father walks away, he throws away the contraceptive box, and that's one of the first flags you see, because you're like the warning flag, because you're like, yeah, back then queer people, especially queer men, they didn't know that they had to use contraceptives as well. So Ollie just throws the box away. Then we are introduced to Roscoe, and he is working as a builder, and it's time for his shift to end. So he walks out of the the construction site, and as he walks away, he talks to one of his co-workers, and his co-workers is like, Roscoe, what's been happening? Why is your father always here to pick you up? And Roscoe is like, yeah, it's a family thing. And Roscoe goes and sits in the car with his father, and his dad is like, who was this boy you were talking to? And Roscoe is like, you know what, this isn't fair. It's not like I can help talking with other men, especially with other men that I work with. So it turns out that Roscoe's family know that he's queer, and apparently the entire family is trying to pray the gay away, which, I mean, we all know that doesn't work. So we cut to a scene where Roscoe's sister is trying to help Roscoe. Apparently, there's this uncle who has come to their home to take Roscoe away, and his sister ends up giving him 120 quids. And she is like, take this money and run away, because uncle is going to take you back to Nigeria. And there, the other village people are going to are going to try and pray the gay away. They're going to bleed you, and then you'll die, and they'll just throw your dead body into the forest. And I don't want that for you. Just take the money and run. And also, I don't want you to make my life miserable, because if things get worse, the entire family is going to go back to Nigeria, and I don't want to go. So his sister ends up giving him the money, and she goes downstairs in order to just distract everyone so that Roscoe has time to run away. And they hear a ruckus upstairs, and his sister is like, she's just praying that Roscoe runs away. But no, Roscoe doesn't run away. He ends up entering the room in drag, and the uncle is sitting on the right of the screen, and on the left is Roscoe's father. And Roscoe is like, you know what, this is who I am, this is my truth, and I'm not going anywhere, I'm not going to run away, and I'm just walking out of the house. And he walks away, and his father is like, Roscoe, if you leave right now, you're never ever going to be welcomed into this house ever again. And Roscoe is like, yeah, it's fine with me, I'm gone. Then the third character we are introduced to, his name is Colin. I guess he's from a small village, and he ends up living as a tenant in one of the rooms of a family, and yeah, he ends up getting a job at this clothes shop, and this is where we end up seeing Neil Patrick Harris as one of his co-workers called Henry, and there's this weird scene between him and his boss, Colin and his boss, and you just know that his boss is going to try something on Colin, and he takes after the shift is done, the boss takes Colin to the back, and he wants Colin to show him his hand washing technique because his boss is giving him this false information about how these cotton fibers can get into your fingertips and get in under the nails and penetrate the skin and infect you, and he just wants Colin to start washing his hands. The boss takes off his shirt. He tells Colin to take off his shirt, and I was like, oh, I don't like where this is going. But thankfully, Henry comes in to save Colin, and because Henry knows how his boss is, even though his boss is married to a woman, he preys on younger queer folk, and Henry comes in to help Colin, and then Colin and Henry bond in a pub, and this is where Henry tells Colin about the man that he's living with. He's been living with him for more than 10 years, close to 15 or 20 years, and Henry is living the life that Colin wants. He wants a husband, he wants a boyfriend, or a husband. He wants someone to love him, and he's very enamored by whatever Henry is telling him, and yeah, Colin has support in Henry, and he's very grateful for it. Then we go back to Richie, and he goes and visits this queer pub, and Richie currently has confidence issues. He does see other men that he likes, but he isn't able to walk up to them and start a conversation, and he's still in the closet personally as well. So we cut to Richie's university, and this is where he ends up seeing this tall young man. His name is Ash, and he's dancing. And of course, Richie has a kind of a crush on him. And then on the right, you can see Jill, and Jill notices Richie looking at Ash, and Jill is like, do you want to hook up with him? And Richie just ignores the entire thing. He's embarrassed. And while this scene is happening, again, while these young queer people are trying to live their lives, there are whispers about the cancer that's killing gay men. And in the background, we see these two women talking about how one of the students' uncle is in the U.S. and he told her about this disease. And of course, it was the way that this entire scene was done. I really liked it because it was giving us a parallel. On one hand, Richie is looking forward to hooking up with Ash, and on the other, we have AIDS starting to take the lives of gay men. So yeah, again, as I said, Jill notices Richie looking at Ash, and she is like, "Hey, you want to hook up with him?" And Richie he's embarrassed and he walks off. So we are introduced to Jill, and Jill and Richie end up being friends. And the actress who's playing Jill, she kind of looks like Tessa Thompson's sister. She's very pretty. And she's like, "Hey, Richie, are you like gay?" And Richie is like, "No, I'm bisexual." And Jill is like, "You know what? That's good enough. You have more choices." So she helps introduce Richie to Ash, and she is like, "Ash, this kid, Richie, he says that he's bisexual. So are we going to fight with each other for him?" And I mean, it's clear that Richie isn't bisexual, but I do hope that with four episodes left, I do hope that this miniseries does give us some bisexual representation, because I remember when Dustin Lance Black ended up doing his When We Rise or We All Rise miniseries, there was some criticism about how that show didn't represent any bisexual representation, and it's basically that whenever a narrative that focuses on the AIDS epidemic is shared in media, bisexual representation is basically non-existent. So maybe in these 4 episodes we might find someone who's bisexual, who knows. So Richie and Ash are hooking up, and because this is Richie's first time, he doesn't necessarily know how I don't want to say these words, but he doesn't necessarily know how bottoming works. And as Ash is going down on him, he notices that Richie hasn't necessarily washed himself properly down there. So he asks Richie to go and take a shower, and Richie does. And yeah, the mood's done now. Ash isn't in the mood anymore. Again, this is Richie's first time. Everyone has to learn. So Richie and Ash start bonding over jokes, and this is where the jokes take a weird turn because Richie is like, yeah, my parents don't know that I'm queer. However, what about your parents? Do they know that you're queer, especially because of the background that you have? And Ash is like, what do you mean? And Richie starts rambling. Richie is like, wait, are you Hindu? Are you Muslim? Are you Buddhist? And yeah, it was very weird. And Ash is like, yeah, Richie, I think you should go. And Richie goes, and of course he's emotional, so he goes to Jill, and Jill comforts him. And then we cut to Colin and Henry. So it's time for Henry to introduce Colin to his, basically his husband. And as they ride the bus, we get to know more about how Henry and his husband, John Pablo, I guess that's his name, they meet. And again, these two grown-up men are giving Colin a safe space. They aren't predatory. They don't want to hook up with him. They just want to make him feel comfortable. And this is where also Henry and his husband tell Colin about, yeah, the neighbors know, and we have been together for years, but the neighbors don't necessarily say anything. Even John Pablo's mother knows, and she's very accepting of the entire thing. But Henry had to break away from his parents because they didn't understand, they didn't accept him. And yeah, Colin is happy. And then we cut to Jill and Richie going back to Richie's house for Christmas, and it's time for Richie to come out. Basically, not come out as queer, but come out as his own person and tell his parents what he has decided to do with his life. And when Jill enters the house, they meet up with Richie's father, and Richie's father is like, hey, Jill, where are you from? And Jill is like, I'm from America. And he's like, no, I meant your heritage. And Jill is like, I guess she says she's from the Caribbean. And yeah, this scene links to what Richie was how Richie was acting like when he was talking to Ash, because there's this weird underlying racism going on in his house, which, yeah, it's weird and it's understandable, but yeah. So it's time for Richie to come clean, and Richie tells his parents that he isn't going to become a barrister. He wants to be an actor. He is going to major in drama and English. And of course, his father isn't happy about it, because I guess his father kind of suspects that Richie might be queer. So Jill is in the kitchen, and Richie's father is like, hey, it was your idea, right? And Jill is like, no, it was all Richie. And his father is like, I know. That's what you're thinking, but I know that it was you who opened it up to all of the entirely different world because of your sweetness. Again, I think that Richie's father knows that his son might be queer. So it's time for Richie to be confident and come into his own. So he starts hooking up with a whole lot of people in clubs. I guess in the montage we saw him hooking up with like 5 or 6 people, including Ash, and he's all about having casual hookups right now. And again, considering the type of narrative that this miniseries is, you know where this is going. So the other main characters start meeting each other as well. Roscoe enters Richie's life. He meets up with Richie. He meets up with Jill. And while that's happening, we cut to Colin and Henry. And apparently John Pablo is sick, and the doctors don't necessarily know what's wrong with him. And Henry is, of course, very worried. And then one day Henry doesn't show up for work either, and Colin is of course very distressed. He tries calling Henry's house, but Henry isn't picking up. And then he goes back to his job, and there is this new man being introduced, and he's taking over Henry's position. And of course, yeah, Colin doesn't want to lose his friend. He's of course worried. So Colin goes and he knocks at Henry's door, and he's like, Henry, it's me, but no answer. However, Colin does see Henry inside, but Henry doesn't answer, and he's hiding away from Colin. And it turns out that, yeah, Henry has AIDS, but of course the doctors don't know. And Colin decides to meet up with Henry, and he tells the nurse that he's his nephew and he needs to meet his uncle. And these two talk, and the doctor is like, it's probably cancer. Again, there was a whole lot of also misinformation, and of course the doctors just didn't know. They just didn't know what was happening. And again, I did read an interview where the creator Russell T Davies was telling that his 5-part miniseries does have some parallels to what's happening right now with the pandemic going on around the world, and how there's a whole lot of misinformation, and similar to back in the day, there were queer men who were in denial about AIDS existing, and it kind of relates to how even to this day there are people who are in denial about what's happening around the world related to this pandemic and not taking the proper precautions and all of that stuff. So yeah, it's clear that Henry is going to die, and of course Colin is very devastated, and the doctors don't even come in to serve Henry food themselves. They just leave it at the door. It's just bad. So it's time for Colin to meet the rest of the main characters. He ends up going to the pub and he's feeling down. So Roscoe comes in and Roscoe is like, "You need to light up, dude. You're dragging down the entire place." And while that's happening, we see Colin being brought to a new house. It's called the Pink Palace, and Jill, Ash, Roscoe, and Richie are going to live in this place. And they have this housewarming party, and Colin ends up tagging along. So everyone is having a good time, but Richie is talking to this woman, and this woman is like, "Yeah, there's this weird disease that's only targeting gay men." And yeah, Richie isn't into it. Richie is like, "Yeah, I don't think so. If this was actually real, the government wouldn't be hiding all of this stuff." And I'm like, "Oh, Richie, you don't necessarily know what the government is capable of." So Colin decides to move into one of the rooms and share the room with Roscoe. And yeah, all of the main characters are now living together. They are now friends, and they have been living together. And I think only Jill is someone who is very interested in continuing her education. So it's time for everyone to leave, and they have this routine. And there's only one bathroom, which I was like, I don't think how that works with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people living in a single place. But anyway, before everyone goes out, they have this routine where they end up saying "la" to each other, which relates to the night when Richie was in drag and he tried to sing, and I was like, wait, is this show going to show Alexander actually sing? But no, he was just playing around. So they have this routine, and everyone is happy, and everyone goes off. Colin goes to his place of work. Roscoe walks off to work, and Richie has an appointment to meet an agent. So Ash and Jill are the only ones in the house, and Ash reads this newspaper, and yeah, the UK newspaper has started to talk about this mysterious disease that's killing gay people. So we get to Colin, and he's been working at the shop for a year, and his boss is like, "It's time for you to be promoted. You need to be more assertive." And Colin is like, "Yeah, I'll be whatever you want me to be." And Richie ends up meeting the agent, and the agent is like, "Hey, Richie, if I do decide to represent you, and if the proper role is presented to you, do you think that you'll be able to leave college?" And Richie is like, "Yeah, I'll leave university. I'll leave my studies. I just want to be an actor. I just want to be under the lights. I want to act, and I want to showcase my talent." And Roscoe, on the other hand, is presented the opportunity to be the owner or the manager of the bar, and Roscoe is like, "You know what? I'll take it." So all three main characters have their jobs, and they have their plans. They are planning where they want to be in the next 5 or 10 years. And yeah, again, we have a parallel where these young queer characters have their entire life planned. However, while that's happening, the older generation, like Henry, those people are dying. And yeah, again, I'm looking forward to watching the remaining 4 episodes, and it's just going to be an emotional toll, because you can see Richie and Roscoe and Colin being so excited about what they want to do with their lives, but then because of the disease that's literally inching towards them, because of how they are, and because of all of the misinformation spreading, you just know that things might not end up well for our main characters. I wouldn't be surprised if Jill or maybe only Ash end up surviving. But yeah, let me know what you guys thought of this episode. And again, you can watch it on the Channel 4 streaming service, all 5 episodes. And this show will be streaming on HBO Max for the US residents come February 10. And I think it's also airing on Channel 4 every week. But yeah, let me know your thoughts if you have watched this show. And until next time, stay happy, stay safe, stay blessed. See you guys later.